Thinking about Hollywood.
Relatability.
Yes.
Trying to break through.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Who gets chosen and why.
Trying and
what
failing.
you're remembered for.
Yeah.
Public humiliation. But the relatability of going through that. Very relevant themes, right?
Yeah.
What?
Well, hey, Chelsea.
Oh, yeah?
You're just making me think about movies, so I don't know.
Sorry, I do that.
But you know what I haven't had in a minute?
What?
A breath of fresh movie.
Dude, me neither. Sweet.
All right. This is A Breath of Fresh Movie, a weekly podcast where me, watcher of movies and...
You didn't forget your name just now.
I didn't, but I'm vamping anyway.
Oh, I dig it. No, I dig it.
Watcher of movies and eater of tomatoes. Victoria Harley.
I love it. Oh, and me,
And,
Chelsea Pope.
yeah.
I want to talk about the tomatoes now. I love
No,
tomatoes.
don't worry about the tomatoes. Let's move past the tomatoes.
You drop a conversation bomb like that.
I'm
gonna have to not think about it.
I'm just trying to add a little pizzazz to the opening here. And
we are both tomato fans, and I think that's delightful. I bought some heirloom tomatoes at the new Lazy Acres by me recently. Ooh. Delicious.
Yeah, I love a good
They're
tomato.
Sweet. You put a little salt on them.
Exactly. I stand in my kitchen and just eat them.
They're great.
Yeah.
Anyway, continue.
Umami. Anyway, each week we watch a movie neither one of us has ever seen before, and then we talk about it.
And we may not talk about everything. We probably won't. But we will talk about a lot usually.
We'll talk about anything.
And we'll talk about anything. So ding, ding, ding. Yo-ho, spoilers ahoy. Also, sometimes we just spoil other random
that happens,
stuff.
But we
try to just focus our spoilers on the...
ye be warned.
It be too late to alter course.
That's right.
I've been saying that a lot. I should probably cut that one.
Yeah, it's okay. I'm fine with it.
I like Pirates of the Caribbean.
Today's movie is the biographical comedy
drama
Ed Wood.
Oh, I was trying to...
No, I love that. That was great.
Okay.
I should have conducted.
I think that was great. You were conducting.
Bernstein. Directed
like Lydia Tarr.
Directed by Tim Burton.
Yeah.
This is about the filmmaker Ed Wood, who's a Hollywood outcast, but with a devoted cast and crew of misfits, he's able to bring his cinematic dreams to life.
That's right. And the time era, if you don't mind refreshing on when this takes place. This is in
the mid-50s. Yeah. And so it's shot in black and white, which just like, to be in the 90s making a movie about set in the 50s. Like, what fun.
Period films from the 80s and 90s have that special texture. That's why I love, Amadeus and... Yeah. Is Barry Lyndon's 80s technically, right? Or is it early... Maybe it's late 70s.
It might be late 70s, but I'm just wedge it in.
There is that something...
I mean, that one's special, but...
but that texture...
I know what you're saying.
Again, especially, like, Amadeus is one of my favorites.
Like, because I don't know. I mean, I couldn't put it in like a discernible set of categories, but there does seem like thinking about Good Night and Good Luck being a black and white film that was made in a contemporary period. But I'm like, was that digital or was that? I don't know if that was shot on film or not. Like,
that's a good question. Well, I think there was enough good care put into.
Oh no!
Honestly, it felt like a black and white Mad Men episode watching that movie.
Kind of, yeah.
I have my.
It's really similar.
It's
to
good,
that.
but it's not like it didn't blow my. It's good.
Yeah, it's a perfectly good film, but it's just.
But I also respect that. Similarly with Ed Wood, there is this very clear homage to how what that color and texture and style was like then. It looks like a film made by Ed Wood.
The cinematography in this is gorgeous.
Not even by Ed Wood, but just with this, there's this reverence, but it's also hearkening back to, it's almost like we're watching a film of what Ed Wood in his mind's eye, with that with that perfect talent, like what he felt he was capable of conveying of his own world and life, and that's like, I think Tim Burton really, really crushed that.
Yeah, Yeah, and I mean that said, we're at checkpoint, Chelsea.
This
isn't.
No, whatever.
Let's set it
aside. Fine. It's fine. He was a. I mean, the movie.
The movie doesn't cover his entire life.
Well, it's just about this guy who makes. He makes cringe film, but becomes a cult
if
icon.
you're not familiar, he made a lot of B and even Z rated movies or whatever. But the kind of shit that was shot very quickly, had a terrible script, and was just made to be pumped out to the little cities across America because people go see anything, and
And this is a good example of a film that, why I would say specifically for Checkpoint Chelsea, like it's not. Spoiler it. This pulls off that we're getting into a specific slice of what's going on.
Yeah.
At this point, we're seeing that we're not seeing him discover that he enjoys cross-dressing.
No,
that's
established.
He's well into it, and we're seeing him navigate how to come out with that.
Yeah.
And there's the relationship with Bella Lugosi.
No, I think really like
I wanted to say Boris Karloff, and I was like, no, that's not.
No, that's not it.
No, that's not the one.
No, I mean really the film.
Bella Lugosi.
The life of their relationship is kind of the plot of the film, or is the life of the film.
It's something that my main criticism, not to jump too much ahead.
It's totally fine.
My main thing would just be, I don't know if I would do a double feature of this with the Gods and Monsters movie.
Oh.
But there is this overlap of an endearing relationship with somebody who also, we're the overlap of that era and that filmmaking and we're dealing with queer topics and we're dealing with blacklisting, whatever.
Yeah.
But that movie, we see a lot of a specific relationship being cultivated.
Yes.
And then this one, my one critique would just be, it's the thing that I hated about Oppenheimer. I was so spread all over the place with 1,000 people, and I'm like, let's just, we could really showcase one relationship, and it's okay.
Yeah.
And this does a pretty good job.
Yeah.
I mean, I loved it.
Yeah.
And to get to first impressions, I loved this.
No, same. I mean,
but my one thing was just because I loved and endeared so much to that.
Yeah.
Mentor-mentee.
Yeah.
There's this caretakership
Oh,
between
yeah.
him.
No, and I can talk about it a little more later, but I mean, Tim Burton had a very similar kind of relationship with Vincent Price.
And I think that's so, I love that. Yeah. I love knowing in that context, you see that in, like,
this is
this
story
is what
that's
I love
close
about
to his
Tim
heart.
Burton.
It's close to his heart.
His best stuff is some of my favorite, because he has such heart.
Yeah. Oh,
He's
Edward
so
Scissorhands.
Yeah, I mean, even his this cheeky stuff. Or you look at I think the last like big thing that I really clicked with for him, and then he just really veered into the CGI stuff, was Big Fish.
I was just thinking that Big Fish was remarkable.
This is one of the rare examples of, like, without a doubt, it's better than the book. I remember reading the book and I was like, this is not that the book sucked, but just this, he added something very incredibly like uplifting and life affirming. And he does that in a lot of his movies.
Yeah.
His best movies.
Yeah.
And
no, and I heard him comment on Edward Scissorhands as like, that was sort of his inability to communicate was sort of how I felt as an introverted, weird kid growing up. I didn't know how to talk to people. I didn't know how to relate to people. And it's like, again, it's so personal. It's such a human experience.
But it's so relatable in how personal that is. And this is a great example of seeing that, like him really like taking his time with it. Yeah. And there were at times, I'm not going to lie, it felt, the pace dragged a little bit at times.
I can see that.
Because it's a long film.
Yeah.
It's like 2.5,
I don't
right?
know.
It is over 2.
Yeah.
I want to say it is pushing 2.5.
I didn't hate it though, because I was kind of like, I want to live in this world forever.
It was excellent. And it's one of those, I don't even know. Yeah. I need to give it, I watched it 1.5 times, right? Okay. I would give it another full watch. Yeah. Try to really just, I want to be okay with it. Ultimately, I'm like, I would rather this just exists as it is than pick it apart for it being 10% too long, or me wanting to only focus on this one relationship the most. Like,
I mentioned
it's excellent.
I mentioned the cinematography, and I know that's like an easy word to just, it's so good. But like, let me be more specific.
Please.
I think it emphasizes this dingy, gray B film industry that exists sort of beneath the surface of what people think is Hollywood.
We rarely get access or a glimpse of anything glamorous at this time.
Oh yeah, this is such a great. These are working people and working filmmakers, and his optimism and his ability to sort of, for lack of a better word, hustle is
he's a hustle. He's a
classic
grinder.
He's a classic Hollywood showman. He's a businessman.
He has that, like in Born Standing Up, Steve Martin says, like, the one thing that I had going for me is like that relentless naivete that I was better than I actually was. Or like that I was dumb enough to believe I was good enough before I was, whatever I'm butchering the quote, but it's that idea of like, that is always going to be endearing and so inspiring to see.
I mean, I'm thinking about like how tragic it is when, he makes this movie and then he sends it to someone and then the guy's like, oh, this must be a joke.
Yeah.
And he laughs at it hysterically because it has to be a joke. And, later Ed Wood is on a phone and it's just a great angle of like him on the lot, on a payphone, calling the head of the studio of this lot that he's on,
Which again, cinematography, like you're saying, the lighting, the
angles are so good. And like, I know Burton can sometimes like be a little too into like the German expressionist Dutch angle thing, but this
is one of his most like just like he really doubled down and he didn't gild the lily.
I think it works so well and it's justified often.
It's extremely grounded.
Yeah, and I think those really low angles, like the one I'm describing, where he's on the phone. And he's like, did you see my movie? Oh, it's the worst thing you've ever seen. Well, my next one will be better.
It's fantastic.
And he's like, hello?
I love it. And it's that Citizen Kane quality. I mean, even when we have...
he constantly compares himself. I wrote, starred, and...
Again, it's what... He captured how Ed Wood perceived his own life, I think.
Yes.
Is that level of...
As long as the film gets made... I'm a filmmaker.
Exactly.
Which it's kind of the opposite instinct of every great director, right? Because you're supposed to be very picky. You're supposed to be worried that the set shook when the guy bumped into the...
But that's also counterintuitive to how you even create anything, because you have to let yourself be... Like, done is better than perfect in any capacity.
And now we have things
and we can't be precious if we want to get anything done.
Yeah.
I say that, but I don't...
No. I think that's a great lesson. And I mean, answering his home phone... Wood Productions, no matter what hour it is. It's like, I
can't not love a story about somebody who just... This is like the disaster artist in a different capacity of like, you can't help, for me, I can't help but be endeared to this fucking crazy Tommy Wiseau, because he just was so, he didn't know what the fuck he was doing. He's crazy. There's a lot we don't know still. Where do you guys money? Where's he even from? But there's also just that undeniable, relentless, we're getting it done.
Yeah, I mean, he does have optimism, but we do see one moment near the beginning where he does kind of confess to...
he's self-aware, but he's making an active choice, I think.
Yeah. Well, he confesses to Dolores, who's played by Sarah Jessica Parker, near the beginning. They says, I'm scared it's not going to get any better than this. A very clearly articulated fear, and one we all share.
I like that frame as far as his arc goes in this movie, because it's a great example of like, he expresses this concern, and usually we end up, weirdly, that just reminded me of Milk. You remember that movie? Oh, yeah. And he's on his birthday, he's like, I'm 40, I've never done anything, whatever. Right, yeah. And then the rest of the movie is all this great shit he did. Yeah. And it's like, this is a movie where someone expresses that existential concern, and then we see them suck, but they're making that active choice to like just Don Quixote through it.
Yeah, no, he just sort of picks up a spear and let's go, And I mean, I love there's something about also this group of sort of misfits, and I know that's like I don't know.
No, it's great. That's a big part of this movie too. This is an ensemble.
But it reminded me of like the Dreamland Players and John Waters.
Yes.
It had this like
this
stealing.
Is very John Waters.
It's so John Waters. This feels like the spirit of John Waters, but in right down to the mustache.
I'm hard pressed to think that there wasn't a peripheral connection going on.
Waters was definitely influenced and a big fan of Ed Wood, and
and I feel like I can't imagine that he and Tim Burton didn't have some connection in some way. Whether or not that's
such a good question.
That's just fan fiction to me now. Yeah. But I just think
it feels like Paul Rubens, may he rest in peace, and all these people were sort of connected, and
Elvira. It's just there's a common Yeah, just like a common goal and appreciation for like the macabre, the cringe, and
Love
also
it.
the like
It's a
life-affirming.
spooky movie. It feels like the sort of thing you should watch on Halloween because it's just spiritually so perfect. This is a foolish thing to say. I did not expect how much attention was going to be on Bela Lugosi. I felt like I
was pleasantly surprised by that too, and that was also again.
Yeah.
And this isn't again. I really did love this movie, but because that was the most significant relationship.
Yeah.
And I always bring this up. I'm like, part of me always just wants to watch that.
Drill
like,
into that.
With Igby, it's like I want to just see him and his mom.
Yeah.
You know, and this, it's like that was the most. Not to say you can't play with the other stuff, but like we could have lost. I'm not gonna lie, we probably could have lost a good half hour of this movie and still Not to say that it wasn't good.
No, of course not.
But I would have loved it just as much.
Yeah.
To have just done that.
Yeah,
because I loved that the most for sure.
Totally.
It was so endearing.
Yeah, I mean, I think I knew that Bela Lugosi died poor. Like I did know that.
But the unpacking of it, I mean, he literally is a Don Quixote type character. This guy's I have to do, this is my calling, and this is he just keeps showing up, and this is his life, this is his identity.
Yeah, he has this. Martin Landau, I guess when he was approached about the role, said, first of all, you immediately related because, he's also an older actor.
But he did such a great job.
Oh, no, we'll talk so much about what he did to prepare for this. But, he mentioned just imagine, okay, you're not only old, you're not only an actor, but your career's not going very well. But you're also known to the whole world. It's like such a weird...
You have a legacy. Like there was a time or a thing or an era you popped off. You'll always be that...
Yep. But he has these regrets and these business mistakes that were made and these contracts that weren't taken because I guess his likeness ended up being owned by Universal or somehow Boris Karloff. I know.
No, but
so he didn't get a lot of the money he should have got for the use of his image. He should have died with plenty of money for the next generation, but he did not.
This was a very respectful, I would say, homage. Not even like let's throw away Ed Wood, like the care.
Oh, the care that's taken for Bela Lugosi in this movie.
That's really what makes this movie pop for me.
Yeah, exactly. Because I bought into Ed Wood immediately. Like I've seen Plan 9. I've seen the one with the octopus that he struggled with. I can't remember if that was the Atomic Brain or something else. But
I'll be honest, I have not seen his films, but I've seen maybe bits or I've seen it. Like Red Letter Media talked about this movie and him.
It's pretty easy to find, and they're not. They're campy, but
you've got that added context though of seeing these the final product.
Yeah, and they definitely are flat and weird, but funny, like unintentionally funny.
And he's still a pioneer. And
but some of the stuff he tried was genuinely innovative or he was on the right track. Like he understood that I could save a lot of money if I use stock footage,
right?
But
there was such a fixation on that too, and then them calling that back was really satisfying. And I found that really endearing because that is something we see in so much media. And it is
some is better than others.
Oh, certainly, but the idea for him to have, it's like, this fucking cringe piece of shit, suggested something that is such a common crutch in commercial film, television,
documentary,
everything.
We constantly rely on
this.
It is. We don't make anything.
Stock footage as a staple.
Oh no, people make.
He was ahead of the curve.
Well, I mean, just the fact that he was not ashamed to use it. Yeah, he understood, and just being like.
He was utilitarian in that way.
He was incredibly utilitarian. That's right. And
he saw the end product.
Yeah, he and there is something really fun about, the cut, perfect, moving on, just.
I mean, and also just he crushes that character. As much as I fucking hate Willy Wonka, I watch this and I'm like, I get why.
I think
I get why it happened.
I'm just gonna say I
hate his
I'm
Willy Wonka,
it's so nice to watch and enjoy Johnny Depp like, because
there's, I mean, we don't
we're not going to
go into all that
we
stuff.
are not going to talk because there's also, by the way, Jeffrey Jones was also like arrested for importuning a minor.
I wanted to bring that up too, because it's frustrating how much I enjoy watching him whenever he comes up in a movie, whether it's Ferris Bueller, he's in other Tim Burton projects.
He was in Sleepy Hollow.
Exactly. He's been in he's been a lot of stuff.
I know, I've always liked him.
He's part of the stock company for him.
I know. He's great as the amazing Criswell.
And I thought that was, I loved that as well, that stylistic choice of that.
Yeah.
Him
beginning the whole movie.
Book ending with him.
Loved that
and
too.
And then the postscript being used there was so
it
fun.
Felt a little Young Frankenstein, not just because of the black and white,
but
the lighting and the moving in on the sets.
Well, that had to have been an influence.
Oh, of course, the headstone credits.
This
I mean,
really...
the whole, and then like also we'll talk about why this didn't happen, but this is one of the only Tim Burton films, one of the few I should say, that the score wasn't done by Danny Elfman. It's Howard Shore. And I got to say, I'm in love with the opening theme music. It is
it's fantastic. That whole opening title sequence in the crawl in the graveyard.
Delicious.
And the music.
Delicious.
It's just, this is a movie that, again, I'm an impatient little piece of shit. So even as I'm saying, it was a little long, blah, 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 it's like, it's not to say that there wasn't great care and purpose in the pace. Like, I really do appreciate the savoring in this film.
Well, and while we're talking about Criswell, who was, if you're not familiar, he was a bit of a local, initially he was a local LA sort of TV celebrity. He had his own show where he sold vitamins, but he added this thing called Criswell Predicts, where he would just make these crazy claims.
Yeah, he would always say inaccurate.
Yeah, but the way he would start, and I love this. He says, "We are all interested in the future, for that is where you and I will spend the rest of our lives."
I love the way the movie ended with that too, because that I just thought that was weirdly really powerful.
Yeah, and I just want to mention a couple of things that he predicted. Criswell predicted mass cannibalism and the end of the world on August 18th, 1999.
Did that not happen?
It didn't happen, I don't think.
Shit.
He also thought that Denver, Colorado would be struck by a space ray.
Has it not?
Not yet. Turning all...
So as far as we know.
As far as we know. Turning all metal to rubber, causing
Victoria, when was the last time you were in Denver, Colorado? How do you know? I don't know.
But he was specifically called out how it was going to cause a lot of disasters at amusement parks.
I've seen
when
TikTok.
All the metal turns to rubber.
Oh shit! Maybe we shouldn't laugh at this man possibly being schizophrenic.
Well,
but
you know what's funny though is that I'm like, he might be right. He might just have the dates wrong.
I think about that all the time. Now, 2012.
I do want to mention one thing that is eerily accurate, and this happened on the Jack Paar program, March 1963. The great Criswell said, JFK will not run for re-election because something's going to happen to him in November of this year.
That's
spooky.
Yeah,
that's
dude.
Spooky.
Yeah.
So Criswell, I don't know. That's...
For reluctant Harry Potter fans, he's a Madame Trelawney of sorts, saying all kinds of crazy shit in the teacup. But then she'll get in it. She's like, the untrue prophecy.
Her eyes roll back in her head. Yeah. It's like, oh, she's legit. Yeah.
Yeah. No, she actually is legit. She got the position on merit.
That or Criswell was on the Grassy Knoll.
I mean, maybe yeah. But the thing is like. I don't know. I just think follow through with the rest. If you're going to be the maker of your own prophecies, why didn't you turn the metal to rubber, dude?
I mean, I love that somebody just decided to become a new Nostradamus. Like, amen. Like, go for it.
People try, but also, not everybody has.
You know what? He wore that's right. He wore a tux. He had a little spit curl. I mean, Criswell presented. Yeah. You know?
These are excellent figures and characters that. Mm-hmm. May or may not be getting are played by problematic people, but ought to still be addressed as for what
Vampira and Lisa Marie. I loved her. God, I loved like a cold, not bitch, but like kind of just so unimpressed. I was so unimpressed. I loved her.
I really liked there was just enough emphasis, and it was intentional. Like cuts. It's like what we talked about with Barbie with Michael Cera. There would be certain cuts intentionally to him as Alan. And in this movie with her, I was like, we
got some faces.
We're getting, she's doing a there's not a lot of verbal action, but that's by design. But we're not losing focus on this person.
No.
And I really liked that.
No, she was great.
I like that post-credit. She tried to sue Elvira.
I also, yeah, she did try. And, you know, we talked a bit about that on our Elvira episode 19, when we covered Elvira and Mr.
Very enjoyable film.
Yes.
We enjoyed.
We
highly recommend
chatted.
that episode.
We had a psychic medium on that episode. So, you know, check it out.
That was a fun episode.
That was a fun, spooky episode. I also I'm sorry, one more
Please
person.
Please continue. I know
there was one more local sort of celebrity or sort of Korla Pandit actually played himself. And that he was the organ keyboardist at that scene with the party. You know, that really great music.
There's so many little like Easter eggs.
I know, I love that.
And it's done because this movie's made with that kind of care.
Exactly. And I learned just before we sat down that he was actually born John Roland Redd, and he was an African.
An interesting name.
Well, he's an African American musician who adopted both the personal and stage persona of Korla and was passing as an Indian man. So.
Good for him.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, that's
just facts.
This is one. It's.
There's a lot of strange details.
Let's shed light on a fascinating
yes.
group of people at a fascinating time that could get lost in the shuffle because they weren't brilliant.
Yeah, and I think that's what I love about this movie. It's such a love letter to the little strange side hustles and the little. You know, I'm saying
honestly,
little,
the people who make up the majority of
Hollywood,
of
the
all of
business.
us out here,
yeah, most of us.
Peculiar types.
And it's so self-aware. I mean, the fact that it's like, well, okay, you need money, you need backers. So they have this backers party at the Brown Derby, and then they come to find out that one of the main, they get the movie going, and then later they find out, oh God, the money isn't coming through. So guess what? They're having the same party a year later and it's like, it was just so funny. I loved the way they just put next year's greatest film.
Yeah, it was
on
great,
the banner.
Cheeky, not in your face, but like cheeky humor.
And also, I loved that exterior set for the Brown Derby because it was
just gorgeous.
Oh my God. And I know it was built on a soundstage. I mean, there's a lot of these great sets.
It looked really good.
But the way they're lighting it and the way...
And they did tight angles. They
framed
really closely.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, there's a couple of scenes that are shot at Musso and Frank's and outside Bordner's. And, the tight...
We got to go back.
I know.
Anyway, continue.
But the tight and Dutch angles in that situation, it's like, well, it's absolutely practical because you're trying to do a period piece, and it's a hell of a lot easier when you don't have to, eliminate a bunch of cars and people. If you just tilt the camera up a bit.
He shot like a classic filmmaker.
He really did.
He used those same techniques that make.
Yeah.
I mean, he's also now thinking like The Third Man, even
exactly.
Or you think a lot of Alfred Hitchcock.
Yeah.
And it's about being savvy.
Yeah, it's very savvy. But I just loved that Brown Derby set though.
It was so good.
I was like, ooh, so neat. Also, we had a little trans representation in Bill Murray of all people.
I thought that was just tastefully done.
I thought so too.
Not
a hair. If it had been a hair in the other direction,
I'm not in that community, but just my take there. Again, we got all kinds of red flag people going on in this cast.
I know.
But the thing is, I'm not going to sit here and say that it wasn't. I thought. Very tastefully done, and he did it because he did it in a Bill Murray way. He has that grounded, cheeky sarcasm.
Yeah,
going on.
but you bought that he was gay without him he didn't overdo anything. And it wasn't just
sort of reminded me of Robert Downey Jr. in Wonder Boys.
Totally.
Playing, it's a straight man playing a queer character.
It's like they just have that gaze.
If you're going to do that, it's like...
Yeah. That's the thing. It's like he talks about how he's going to transition, but then doesn't. And then when I was reading about, and we're talking about his character is John Bunny Breckenridge, who... I believe also for a time worked as a drag queen. So, I think there's a little bit of, this isn't certainly
very compelling post.
Yeah. But just this isn't like a caption. Character though to what I think is interesting is they're not meant to explain anything, but they show a dimension of queerness that most people don't even bother to explore at all.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really cool.
And it wasn't in this very I thought it was done in a really grounded.
It was grounded.
way.
That's exactly it. And it's funny. I was thinking about how Bill Murray didn't get to play that like gay character in The Jerk, or it was cut out.
Right.
And it's like, is this him? Like finally, I did love when he gathered together. Ed Wood asks for transvestites, and he's in the room with all the men and women.
His casual just knowledge of the way he would talk about it.
Yeah.
What does that queen know?
Like, and he's like, well, they want you to be professional,
right.
but don't be too Nelly or whatever. Yeah. He's like, nix on the Nelly, but keep the naivete. Yeah, it's great.
It's good. Yeah,
it's real good. And that anyone was talking to those people at all, much less putting them in a film. It's like. Ed Wood was such a
how can you not equate this kind of storytelling and this slice of history to John Waters?
I mean, I'm just thinking about Divine and like the way they filmed her on the street of Baltimore in the mid 60s, just watching people react to her. Like, what a radical fucking thing for her to just walk down the street like that, like full drag.
Yeah.
I don't know. I agree. I think that there's just
if you like or love any of that, and you haven't. I feel like I'm the last person in the world to have seen this movie. I hadn't seen this.
I think
it's just eluded me, and also just not usually. It's not on the streamers mostly.
Yeah, and I have a vague recollection of my parents possibly renting this from the video store when we were growing up, and I remember like passing by in the kitchen, right, and seeing like Johnny Depp in an Angora sweater, being like, why is it in black and white? And then I leave. But I was aware of this movie, and I just never got to it, and it's so damn good. It's so damn good. I mean,
I hesitate to say because it obviously is very well known, but it feels. I mean, I certainly had just it didn't hit my radar.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I think a lot of it is just it doesn't maybe get shown a lot.
And there's all these other big movies there's so many other.
The crowded
He's
out.
done so many blockbusters.
The distribution rights were taken up by Disney, and Disney, it's under Touchstone. Like that's the print, but it's the.
Why wouldn't you want to watch Alice in Wonderland 2 instead?
I mean,
Dumbo.
Just saying.
Why would you want to watch Ed Wood when you could be watching?
It makes me wonder. Like, was this on Disney Plus and I just didn't check?
I didn't see it prompted when I was searching, but it could
a question for another day.
I don't know.
A couple of observations I just want to bring up, or just one really, is that drying out in a sanitarium looked like hell. That looked like they just deny you until you scream yourself calm again. I guess.
Not that that's changed much, but yeah, I mean,
that was like
it's very disturbing to see how that is captured.
Yeah,
I mean, even like. I watched watching Girl Interrupted. That's actually I read the book, watched that. Even that is a very gilded example of just how rough psychiatric treatment has been until recent. I mean, even still, but
it's rough,
but in terms of that mid-century,
it's gotten better. But oh my goodness, yeah,
she's got hysteria.
Yeah. There were just a couple lines.
Lock her up.
Yeah, a couple lines.
Declaw her.
I really love. I know what it's like to live with a secret.
Yeah.
I get it. I don't like it.
Yeah.
And no, I'm just a transvestite.
Yeah. I liked the scene too with Patricia Arquette when he's
explaining,
and he there's that moment and she's like,
don't you like sex with girls? Yeah.
She's like, okay. Yeah. Like she just is like,
it's fine.
Just it's maybe
in the spook house.
Maybe I it seems like maybe that's not a big deal thing, but I loved how simply she addresses it, and then you see him just so like gleefully, really?
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
And it's
life is back to normal. Yeah.
It's a cute, sweet, like, so, there's a lid for every pot, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It should give us all hope. Any other impressions?
There's so much.
There's so much.
I've talked so much.
No, same. And I'm like,
continue.
Oh, there's still so much.
Go ahead. I'm gonna.
It's okay. This started out as the brainchild of Scott Alexander and Larry Karaszewski. They were students at USC, and they sort of discovered like, oh, we love Ed Wood, and they wanted to make a film, but they're like, well, no one's gonna ever make a film about this guy. they thought maybe we'll make a documentary. They had a sort of title picked out, The Man in the Angora Sweater. That never ended up happening. They ended up writing some successful family films like Problem Child and Problem Child 2, but they didn't. They really wanted to distance themselves from that image of being, child friend. Like, let's get away. So they write like a treatment for an Ed Wood biopic, and they pitch it to Michael Lehman, who was the director of Heathers, because they thought, oh, this is somebody who could maybe do that.
Yeah, that could be good too.
Right? Yeah.
I love Heathers.
Michael Lehman worked with this producer, Denise Denovi, who also worked with Tim Burton on Edward Scissorhands, Nightmare Before Christmas, Batman Returns.
They like knew where they were trying to go with this.
Yep.
But I also I respect that with Heathers. Like, that's a great example of a movie that has that. It's camp, but
it's unapologetic. It's very shocking the first time you see it.
I love that movie.
I do too. But it has some
and then there's those weird fantasy sequences, but the way it's blended is really it really works.
Just her with a cigarette at the end. Anyway,
right.
I also want to mention that Denise Denovi produced Cabin Boy, which
I don't think I've seen that one.
Oh my god.
Oh shit! I gotta go see it.
It's very dumb, okay, but it's a 90s must with Chris.
You've seen all the stuff. Wait, who else was
Chris Elliott?
Okay. Yeah.
Anne Magnuson plays this woman with 8 arms. Anyway, it's great. Anyway,
you had me at 8 arms. Okay. Let's go.
Anyway, so all of this is going on. Burton signs on as a producer because he's interested, but Lehman's supposed to direct. But Burton starts reading letters of Ed Wood's and a book, a biography about him called Nightmare of Ecstasy. Never read it, but that's got to be on my reading list now.
Name.
Yeah. And Burton was all slated to direct a film called Mary Riley, but ended up departing over casting choices. He wanted Winona Ryder. They wanted Julia Roberts because she was kind of on fire at that moment. Not literally, of course.
Yeah.
Put it out. And he said, in reading letters and reading Ed Wood stuff, he said, Wood wrote about his films as if he were making Citizen Kane, whereas other people perceived them as the worst movies ever. And he said he found...
There it is.
The optimism, yeah. There's something about that fascinated him, With
that actor.
Yes.
There it is.
There it is. There
it is.
So because he departs Mary Riley, and then because Michael Lehman ends up being committed to Airheads, he goes to direct Airheads. So Burton takes over as...
Have you seen Airheads?
I have, yeah. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
It's weird. It's weirdly... I saw it so many times because it was on fucking Comedy Central.
You're like, sorry, I can't do Ed Wood. I can't do Airheads. Yeah. But Airheads is obviously, that was commercially very successful.
It is funny.
That's fine.
It's better than you would think. Anyway.
I'm sure.
So while this is in development now, it's all at Columbia. And so the 2 writers I mentioned earlier, Alexander and Karaszewski, they write a script. It's about 147 pages. And they write the script in 6 weeks. Burton requests no changes or rewrites. So... he just agreed.
That's pretty tight.
He's like we get.
He's a very Ed Wood response.
Yeah.
All right, let's go. All right,
that's good.
Done.
And he actually did kind of embrace. He made it a quick shoot. He wasn't too precious. He said, I didn't even storyboard because I wanted to rely on the possibilities of improvisation among my actors, and I wasn't doing anything super technical, so it really didn't feel like we needed to. Worry about that as much.
He has a good relationship with his cast.
Yeah. And there's a great behind the scenes, very, nobody's talking over it, just great footage.
I watched a little of that. Yeah.
And he looked like he was having a great time.
Yeah, that is on YouTube.
It is. Somebody ripped all the special features and put them up.
Actually, the movie is on YouTube technically, but it's flipped backwards, like the footage.
Interesting.
And also the way because they're trying not to get flagged or whatever.
Oh, of course. Yeah, I understand.
So
I know that trick.
It's also the spacing, like the screen
they put
spacing.
It like a little frame.
It's like you're too up close. So some words, like in the opening sequence, are getting cut off, and it's backwards. And I was like,
it's not ideal.
I'm just gonna rent it.
Yeah, just pay the money.
One
of the things that happened was, although we loved the script, Burton was like, okay, but I have to have creative control, and it has to be shot in black and white. The head of Columbia Pictures at the time, Mark Canton, was like, no, I don't want black and white. That's dumb.
I don't know that. I think it really is part of what makes this movie, though.
I love it.
Yeah.
So the project goes into turnaround, which basically means, hey, anyone want this? We don't want it anymore. So Warner Brothers, Paramount, 20th Century Fox,
Disney.
How
parallel to Ed Wood
I know, right?
It's funny that way.
Well, basically every studio.
Are you joking?
Every studio was interested. That's the funny thing.
Oh, there you go.
Disney, under the Touchstone banner, ended up kind of winning because Burton had an existing relationship with them. They had helped produce.
I mean, with how many bangers he had already made by that point, why wouldn't he get the
creative control?
This is also, it's not current Hollywood. It was the 90s
exactly.
as well. And he had the multiple Batmans and all.
Oh yeah, no,
edits,
Batman Returns was in edit at this point.
That and Edward Scissorhands.
He was well
established.
Yeah,
man.
No, he had, and Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
Yes.
Which was
I
this.
Forget to mention that.
That's my favorite.
It's a huge deal.
That is the favorite, but this is a close second.
Yeah.
Because holy shit, this was great.
That's good. I respect that.
But Pee-wee's Big Adventure is incredible. I don't need to keep saying that. So he got an $18 million budget and the total creative control he wanted. However, Burton refused a salary. He wasn't paid for his work on this. I'm not sure if that was part of getting the creative control, but...
He had all that Batman money.
He had all that Batman. He's like, I don't need it.
He had all that Beetlejuice money.
So principal photography began in August 1993. It was a 72-day shoot. This is more character-driven, not so much style-driven. Burton put it himself. It's not a hardcore, realistic biopic. It's more about engaging in the spirit of Ed Wood, and he didn't want to ridicule people who had already spent most of their lives being ridiculed.
He did. He did a very tasteful job.
I agree
with that balance, because as loyal as you want to be with any biopic, there have to be some shifts and where you're making a movie too.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. There are a few inaccuracies which aren't huge, but for the sake of drama and whatnot, certain things just for instance, Bela Lugosi was not a man who cursed, so the whole calling Boris Karloff a cocksucker great line,
but it's still funny,
still very funny, also I guess
hey, Frost Nixon wasn't entirely real,
no,
right?
Come on,
My Week with Marilyn.
I don't care. No,
there's that there's the historical fiction part.
We are so far beyond now. This is a 1994 concern.
Exactly.
Also, I guess Lugosi didn't have dogs, but I love that they put dogs into the...
I enjoy it.
I love the dogs. Also, it was Manly P. Hall, who's like an author and sort of mystic guy who lived in California. He was the one who actually brought Bela Lugosi to rehab, not Ed Wood. So I feel like that's the most important, maybe.
But the movie's about it.
But the movie's about it. No.
What else was Ed Wood doing?
No, we're not going to watch. I mean, we can't introduce Manly P. Hall, though that would have been cool because he's an interesting dude.
This isn't called Manly P.
It's
Hall.
not called
Ed Wood.
I mean, it could be. Depp talks about his own performance being a combination of Casey Kasem and Ronald Reagan. A little bit of the Tin Man in there, too, I guess.
That's funny.
I definitely see the Reagan.
Yeah.
Like the optimism. And
I see the Tin Man.
Yeah.
For sure.
Do you? Okay. I hear the Casey Kasem. I wasn't sure if I saw Tin Man or not, but the way he moves his head,
it's that rigidity.
Yeah.
With also, it's like you think of it like Wizard of Oz, and it's like oil can.
Yep.
Turn,
right.
oil can. And like the way the mouth is frozen, because in Wizard of Oz she has to oil his mouth because it's frozen.
See, I'm clearly...
And he's got this sort of perma-frozen
I need to watch that movie
smile.
Again. It's obviously not burned
Wizard of Oz.
Deep enough. No, I mean, I've seen it.
You don't remember Wizard of Oz? No.
I've only seen a handful. It was not one I grew up with, so I saw it the first time I was in college.
That's wild.
Yeah, I know.
It is one of those, it's so ubiquitous.
I think my family wasn't super into anything with music, like musicals. I mean, like that sounds so horrible.
This is where our yin and yang comes through, because if at times maybe people think, Victoria and Chelsea are too similar.
No, we didn't.
But
do musicals.
I'm bringing you in. I'm bringing you into my trash.
I was given The Sound of Music growing up, and my dad was like furious. It's the only time I've ever seen him like mad about.
Your dad was mad about probably the most fancy music,
because he said he spent his whole life dodging having to see it, but now.
Oh my god! Sorry, that's really funny. Oh fuck!
I swear it was I've never seen him that petty before. It was really funny.
I could have gone my whole life without.
But now it's fuck, my daughter has a coffee. I feel like he was mad.
So funny.
And I gotta say, I watched The Sound of Music within the last year. Great movie. Funny. It's a great movie.
Are you kidding me?
I love it.
It's as important as Citizen Kane in my opinion. It's on that level of like this. That is a seminal piece of.
Yeah.
Your dad's hilarious. That's really funny.
You're so mad.
Fuck.
So angry.
How did that get in the house?
Who brought that?
Who brought this in the home?
Yeah, that's the only time we were worried. I want to mention that Rick Baker, who's very famous for doing very extreme special effects makeup, he leapt at the opportunity to do this when he heard that Bela Lugosi was going to be a key figure, because he was concerned that a lesser makeup artist might do too much. And he really wanted to get it right, because Bela Lugosi and the whole horror thing is a huge inspiration to his career. So he felt this kind of debt. So people felt this intense.
Look at all this care.
That's what I'm saying.
What did we most recently talk about with that the same energy? Because I feel like we were just. It wasn't Igby.
It might have been Barbie.
It was, yeah. It's that. That parallels with the care of part of why Barbie's so fucking good. Is that
God.
They took it seriously.
Yeah, they took it 100% seriously. And, you know, Rick Baker, being who he is, happened to have a life mask of Bela Lugosi. And so he modeled this. He created a nose, chin, upper lip, and ears for Martin Landau.
It really worked.
Yeah.
It really.
Yeah.
Did.
And what's funny is, to Rick Baker, he's like, we didn't really get it all the way, but that wasn't necessary. And he said initially he had the pieces painted very realistically, but because they were filming in black and white, it actually became necessary to paint them more theatrically.
Right.
So I thought that was kind of interesting.
It's an interesting, working with that composition.
Yeah.
With
but
black and white.
I was fooled, because I was like, I guess I don't know Martin Landau's face that well. I'm like, oh, that's got to be
I
his
was completely
nose.
duped.
I was like, that was a fake nose.
I've seen Airplane and Naked Gun each maybe.
And he has a much larger upper lip than Bela Lugosi
I
has.
did not.
They made this lip piece for
I
him.
didn't track any of it. I honestly really wasn't perceiving Martin until I saw his name and was like, oh,
wow,
that guy.
And he did win the supporting Oscar, best supporting actor for this, which
I love that.
I got to say that at a different dinner, it's disputable who said this. I don't know if it was an LA critic or it was said at a New York Film Critics dinner. I'm not sure, but they said the Oscar goes to Martin Landau. Its shadow goes to Bela Lugosi.
Oh yeah.
Which I just,
I think that it's in that vein with a lot of these actors with the biopics or whatever. I think of like Marion Cotillard wins for La Vie en Rose. It's like, well, that's also just like she embodied Edith Piaf
and cared too.
And it is that like the shadow of that Oscar is to this woman.
Absolutely. And I just want to, I mean, he earned it. I mean, because Landau, I had some details about how he bought, he couldn't find accent tapes. This tells you what era of acting, you had to go get. So instead of finding dialect tapes or whatever, he actually got language tapes to figure out where, he said it, like where the tongue would fall for this Hungarian accent. Because the thing is, Bela Lugosi hated his Hungarian accent, or he felt it held him back. Later on, even though he kind of played it up, he had a very.
We got a lot of that self-reflection and insecurity, and just
he had a lot of.
He was very aware.
He was very conflicted and very self-aware. So, you remember the director of The Ruling Class, Peter Medak,
yes,
also Hungarian. He complimented Landau's performance and said the reason why this is so good is that you're not an actor doing a Hungarian accent. You're playing a character who's trying not to have a Hungarian accent.
Exactly.
And you fucking nailed it. And it's like, wow. And he really is a master. I mean, he became the role, but without, and it's not his theatricality. It's Bella's theatricality.
It's like, we talk about who best supporting and character, but he wins for supporting, which is great. But he really is.
He's the heart of the movie.
That's why, again, I'm like more.
So good.
That's my favorite.
Yeah. Again, the black and white film aspect of it meant production design. I guess the designer, this was the first black and white film, so he had to photograph everything in black and white, because you have to know how those colors react.
It's that level of attention to detail that clearly, that anxiety and hyperfixation clearly worked out.
He also spent a lot of time creating that. During the opening titles, we pull back over a set of Hollywood. Yeah. And you'll notice there's a lot of buildings crammed together that aren't really that close. And he sort of talked about creating that. But then they created a more jacked up version because there's a scene where Ed Wood is directing the flying saucers over a city. And he said it was actually more hard or more difficult to make the kind of crappy one than this very elaborate one. But I just thought that was a wonderful homage. Like, I loved seeing us pull back between the Warner building towers.
It looked incredible.
And the way it panned down to the theater.
Y'all gotta watch this movie.
It's so good.
Probably most people listening have, but like if you haven't, that just it looks great.
Oh, it's great.
It's
also,
every performance is strong.
I didn't notice this, but this is crazy. On every set, there is a recurring image of a flying saucer.
Yeah.
Not in every shot.
I didn't notice that,
but in every set.
That's a cool fact.
And I saw it like a little montage that demonstrated. I was like, I did not fucking see that.
I did not notice that.
So that's very cool. It's like subliminal, but it's there. It's so good.
Yeah. Literally Easter egg.
Yeah. And literal Easter eggs. Well, not literal. Metaphorical.
What are spaceships if not flying Easter eggs?
That's right. That's right. I mentioned Howard Shore, not Danny Elfman composed this. That's because Danny Elfman and Burton had creative differences on Nightmare Before Christmas. Also, Elfman was already strained because he was working on Batman Returns and they were on deadlines.
He got that Simpsons money too.
Yeah, he was getting a big head, you know. But he wasn't available and it wasn't a good time to ask.
Right.
So they brought in Howard Shore and his blending of like bebop, jazz, Cuban, sci-fi with the theremin, you know, is really cool. And they got into like what was popular in the 50s. Cuban music was having a big moment. Science fiction movies, this like theremin sound. Have you ever seen one of these before? A theremin?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
they're
cool.
So
looking.
fucking cool.
Like there's some like the TikTok influencer theremin players.
Of course there are.
Always satisfying to watch.
Well, yeah, and if you want to know more, there's nerdier people who can explain it, but essentially it's a set of oscillators and your body is sort of
it's that UFO sound.
Yeah.
It's that woo.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Like
yeah, that's the sound.
There you go.
But it was an instrument that was invented by Leon Theremin, who's a Russian musician. And it was supposed to be this very like concert, like almost like a stringed instrument sort of vibe. They wanted to elevate it, you know, to that level. So the fact that it
turned
got
into its own little freak.
Got kind of pimped out, yeah. But they brought over his like great niece who plays it, and so she came over and did the recordings in London. And
there's so much background.
There's so much background.
Like,
I know, and I'm trying to keep this short.
I know, I understand.
It was hard for her to get a visa. Cool. Okay, I think we're ready to talk about reviews, though.
Okay,
I think we got through that.
I will say that. So if you Google this, it says why should I watch this? Under why to watch, creative, humorous, and emotional. I think
it's all those things.
That's fair. Yep. IMDb gives it a 7.8 out of 10. Google users 82%. 93% Rotten Tomatoes. I'm clicking Rotten Tomatoes. Let's see the disparage. Pretty close between the critical score and the audience score. 93% with the critics, 88% audience score. You know, Tim Burton and Johnny Depp team up to feat the life and work of cult hero Ed Wood with typically strange and wonderful results.
Yeah.
And then I'll also visit Letterboxd, but a couple blurbs here. Let's see. Oh, Owen Gleiberman. I want to see what he said. In 2018, he gave it an A. Ed Wood is a comedy of the ridiculous in which the ridiculous turns unexpectedly sublime. He could be a little hard-ass, too. So it's all dudes on this page. So I like to try to get, like, one lady if they show up on the first page. It's all fresh tomatoes. Yeah. So there's that. Oh, Joe Layden. I know him from Twitter, from the Moving Picture Show. In 2020, he said, Burton has managed to make something altogether unique, a compassionate farce that can be enjoyed even by people who have never heard of Wood, who would never willingly submit themselves to a woodwork. Yeah. And admittedly, I haven't seen his movies.
I mean, they're funny.
Thoroughly. You know? But I thought that was funny and cheeky.
Yeah.
Like, even if you would never deign to watch the trash movies he made.
I remember, and this is a brief little...
Go ahead.
Aside, but I remember watching, you know, I grew up watching Seinfeld, and there's an episode where, I believe it's the Chinese food restaurant episode where they're waiting for a table, and part of why they're so antsy is they're supposed to go see Plan 9 from outer space. It's like showing, and, you know... Eventually, like, Jerry might have to go by. And he's like, I can't go by myself. What am I going to do? Make sarcastic comments to the guy beside me? Like, so the idea of, I grew up also on Mystery Science Theater. So the idea of making fun of a bad movie, I think I just was...
that shared experience, that cult feeling.
I knew of Plan 9 before I knew the name Ed Wood. But then when I knew the name Ed Wood, it was like, oh, okay, they're a bad B movies. Like Roger Corman.
I'm sure that's a relatable correlation. Other
but that's
As far as Letterboxd goes, very beloved. It's a 4.1 average score.
That's good.
This is one where people are writing longer, more earnest reviews for. I always like to point out whether they're more memey, like
people were stirred.
Tweet joke. This is like the very first review is a longer. It's a lot of 5-star, 3.5 at least to 5-star reviews. This first one, 5 stars with a heart, 98 score, life-affirming, empathetic work.
It is.
This is as good as it gets in terms of Tim Burton, but it's also one of the greatest films of the 90s, so it's no small feat. I won't read all of it, but that was Silent Dawn. Yeah, John, 3.5 stars. Be yourself, even if being yourself means being a total failure, heart. Very cute. Joe, 5 stars and a heart, just said Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yeah.
And then... a lot of these, someone just said, Basket Case Joel said with a heart said Tim Burton's last film. I respectfully disagree.
Yeah, Big Fish.
I'm
big
sorry.
Fish.
And for me, I
like
feel like
Sweeney
that.
Todd, right? Or no?
No, I actually really hated.
Oh,
I
you
remember
hated it?
seeing
Oh,
it.
okay.
Well, because it's one. I love that Sondheim musical, and it's one of those things you would think would be. I would imagine maybe 80s Sweeney Todd, or maybe 80s Tim Burton could have,
but not.
No, it was
He's
so
too soft at that point.
It was so self-serious and too much digital, and it was we're missing what makes Sweeney work is that it's a dark. It is still a dark comedy.
I think I saw that one, and it was like, yeah, that wasn't.
It's supposed to be fucked up and funny, and gory, but in a very campy, broad. Way. Again, this is like you would think on paper, Tim Burton. Anyway, and then Felipe, 4.5 stars and a heart, says Martin Landau as Bela Lugosi is one of the greatest things to have ever happened in cinema.
It really is.
I don't know, just end on that one.
I think that's a great note. Yeah.
I don't,
Yeah.
People love this movie.
Yeah.
And I think there's a good reason for that.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I
still do prefer Big Fish, but again, I'm the Disney musical pithy girl, and he really, that is like, I thought that was the perfect balance too with digital stuff that like. Really
I agree.
Worked.
Plus, just a great cast. I mean,
he's excellent with guy. He knows how to showcase his actors.
Like, come on.
When we're not overly gilding the lily, like we really get to see
Danny DeVito, and there's so many great people.
Oh, it's delightful. I love one of my favorite moments is when Albert Finney's in the tub. Now we're doing Big Fish. So Albert Finney's in the tub, and then Jessica Lange gets in the tub,
fully clothed,
and like lays with him, and then she starts crying. He's saying, "I was drying out." She gets in, she's like, "I don't think I'll ever dry out." I was like, "Oh." It's just such an endearing.
They destroy
movie.
me. I just thinking about it.
It's those moments that you take the time to really like.
It's so good.
Like savor
Damn it,
and enjoy.
Chelsea.
He's so fucking wholesome, Tim Burton, dude.
Yeah, I know.
I still will root for him.
I
paid to see Dumbo, and boy, do I regret it. But I will always try to root for him.
He's still alive. We don't.
I watched all of Wednesday. And
some filmmakers get better as they get older again. Like, you know what I mean?
Maybe we'll see.
I don't love everything in the middle of Martin Scorsese's career, but I've been a big fan of either end of it.
And there's people that are fans of all
stuff
this stuff we don't, Anyway.
Speaking of other films that were out, so this came out September 1994.
1994 is that big year, right? We got Forrest Gump and Pulp
Forrest Gump
and all that stuff.
We've got Pulp Fiction, Natural Born Killers, Time Cop, Clear and Present Danger, River Wild, Quiz Show, and Milk Money.
Pretty impressive for Martin Landau to win for his Oscar, in spite of the fact that he definitely deserved it. But also there's all these other big dick movies out.
Oh, no, I really wish I had looked at that Oscar race to see what he was up against. Because, but, he's playing a Hollywood legend who really didn't get his due. Landau
he just did a great job.
I mean, he was also he was perfectly poignant and hysterical. And, even just him, going to the kitchen and he's dropping his needle
probably
kit.
Between him and Gary Sinise, and then maybe Samuel Jackson is
was he nominated for that?
I don't know if he was. I don't know. I'm fan pitching what the nominations could have been that year.
Why we need a producer in the room who can get on the Academy website and just pull that shit up for us right now.
Sorry, we don't have enough money to make somebody else do our work. You have to do it all.
I have to do all ahead of time.
And then I show up.
And I'm like, and then you ask a question who else was in that race?
Victoria's holding so many pages too. She always does
it's a lot of notes.
So shout out to.
Well, this week there was a lot. Thank you for noticing. Let's talk about Tim Burton.
Yes.
Tim Burton was born Tim Burton was born August 25th, 1958. we know he's an American filmmaker, animator,
August
and
12th,
artist.
you said?
August 25th.
August 25th. Oh, so wait, that goes from Leo to... Oh, he's a Virgo.
He's a Virgo, okay.
Or is it Leo? No.
I don't know.
Virgo.
I don't know. He's born in Burbank. He's from right in
He's
here.
a Cali dude. See, I know some background with him that's art that, I like that.
He's the son of Gene Burton, who later would get divorced and go by Gene Erickson, who later would run Cat Plus, a cat-themed gift shop in Burbank.
I like him.
Yeah, I like that.
That's
mom. That's mom. And then William Bill Burton, who was a former minor league baseball player. And then he ended up working for the Parks and Rec Department, organizing sports leagues and things like that. So his dad's a jock. He grew up in Burbank, near Forest Lawn Cemetery, which is part of why he said he didn't find Ed Wood's movies to be that cheesy, because he's like, that looks like the cemetery we're near, you know?
Yeah.
He made short films in his backyard. I'm not sure who gave him the camera, but that must have been a significant moment. He attended Burbank High School, not a great student, but very introspective, interested in art, painting, drawing, films. He eventually will attend Cal Institute of Arts.
Yeah, he went to Cal Arts.
He went to Cal Arts.
That's a big one.
Yeah,
that's
and Santa Clarita.
He is still
a Cal Arts kid.
A strongly lauded alum.
Oh, and should be. Absolutely should be.
They definitely peddle his legacy.
But Cal Arts is also like a Disney, sponsored kind of thing, right? Or am I?
I mean, they running at a Disney Hall connected to the. Yeah, there is a financial.
So I think
connection there.
not to but
it's kind of a farmhouse for their animators.
That's what I'm saying,
too,
and that's how he got connected with Disney, because it was at Cal Arts.
It has been. I should
Yeah,
say.
well, it was at Cal Arts that he studied character animation, and then Disney offered him an internship or apprenticeship, I should say, as an animator. And so he works as a storyboard artist, an animator, graphic designer, art director, concept artist.
Tim Burton's Disney guy.
Yeah,
he's
I
a
know.
Disney
He
doll.
came up through Disney. Yeah, he does all this grunt work. He hates it because it's like, I sit at a desk and I have to just draw and draw and draw. And I've seen those documentaries and they're rough,
Yeah.
So, but he manages to get a short made called "Stalk of the Celery Monster," which I think is a great fucking title.
Yeah, it is.
And some of the films that he worked on as either a concept artist or an art director or whatever. Although apparently none of his concepts were ever used, which he was. It's fine. But he worked on
Wetting the Blade, or whatever.
But he worked on Fox and the
honing.
Hound. He worked on Tron and The Black Cauldron. So
Fox and the Hound, did that come out that late?
Fox and the Hound was 1981.
Interesting. I don't know why I thought it was like 60s or 70s.
81.
Interesting.
Tron was 82. Black Cauldron was 85.
Tron.
So
It's fine.
while he was working at Disney, he also made in 82 a short animated film called Vincent. And this was a 6-minute.
I've seen that one. Yeah.
Have you? The black and white stop motion.
Yeah.
And it's narrated by Vincent Price. And it's about a kid who imagines himself to be like Vincent Price, or like he lives in a very normal world, but everything he sees
It's
is
really
spooky.
good. And I don't want to interrupt your momentum, but I do want to make a shout out, because sometimes I forget to remember and shout out to. Anyway, Broy Deschanel did on YouTube a great Tim Burton video,
cool.
and it's pretty loaded. It's got it's a clickbait. You open it, she's like, she's ragging on him.
Okay.
But she also clearly has a lot of love and knowledge of his history, and that's where she talks about that.
Yeah.
This history with him.
Yeah, and it seemed like it's really important.
Just comparing his earlier works to his more recent stuff.
I would love to see this because it sounds really pure and sweet, and
Yeah.
I can sort of picture it already. Maybe I have seen it.
Honestly, this is some overlap with like Frank and Weenie.
Yeah,
in
well,
tone and
I
style.
definitely will get to that. There's one thing though. Well, actually, we'll talk about Frank and Weenie first. This was his first live action short film. But Disney fired him for spending company money on a film that they deemed too scary for kids. Mm-hmm. But Frank and Weenie is a delicious concept. I've used that word like 5 times already.
It's adorable.
But that concept is great because it's like your poor dog gets hit by a car and you want to bring him back to life. Frankenstein, dog.
He did like a sweet,
it's so simple
reconjugation of like Pet Cemetery, but then it has like this tone that reminds me of Wallace and Gromit, actually.
Yeah, and isn't Shelley Duvall in that movie or that short? I think she is.
Yeah, yes.
He worked on her like Shelley Duvall fairy tales.
We love Shelley Duvall.
We're
gonna make her a votive candle too.
Now, although he did one other thing that he did before Frankenweenie, and it was there was a live action version of Hansel and Gretel that aired exactly once on the Disney Channel. That
I don't know this, but it may have been mentioned in the Broy.
Basically,
YouTube,
it's a crossover between the Hansel and Gretel story, and by the end they're doing kung fu battles with the witch. It was aired on Halloween 1983 at 10:30 p.m. and then promptly shelved. And it was rumored to not exist at all. Now in 2009, the MoMA screened it as a part of a Tim Burton, exhibition. Cool. In 2011, LACMA did the same thing. And in 2012, the Seoul Museum of Art also did the same thing. So it's out there.
We
gotta find it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Can you tell me?
Yeah.
Can you
my
keep an eye out for me?
And I just want to bring us up to Ed Wood and do a brief rundown of a couple things. I mentioned Pee-wee's Big Adventure. This is in 1985. That was an $8 million budget. It grosses $40 million. And although critics have no idea what they're watching because they're like, is this a kid's movie or is this for what is this?
That's my dream. Is I want to make things that live in that terrain of absurd, earnest, kind of like uncanny, scary almost, but then I don't know, it really does hit that sweet spot.
Well, and apparently Paul Rubens was sold on.
I gotta rewatch it again.
Yeah, it's so good, dude.
It's so good.
It's so good. They're showing it a lot right now because Paul Rubens passed, but Paul Rubens was sold on Tim Burton minutes into watching Frankenweenie. He's like, oh, this is my guy.
Yeah.
And prior to that, he was kind of resistant to having to pick a director. He was very annoyed. So it was such a thank God.
I think it makes sense too because it's such a specific tone and flavor to pull off of what he was doing with that.
Absolutely.
It's
he gets it.
Yeah, that offbeat.
Yeah. That's also when he gets involved with Danny Elfman, who was this sort of Oingo Boingos, this eccentric music
girls.
Yeah, this eccentric music project. But he and Danny Elfman collaborate for the first time. He did a little TV, but then we know Beetlejuice in '88, Batman in '89, Edward Scissorhands in 1990, '92, Batman Returns, and 1994, Ed Wood. Now we produced Nightmare on Before Christmas somewhere in there, but that's the thing.
Cool.
We know there's more after that, but I'm not going further.
I think
I can't.
You're going to ask about supporting, right?
I am.
Again, there's so many.
We could read out all of them because honestly.
If you want to go ahead, I would say just my main one. I just wanted to say, even though they're almost more of a main player, I want to give some love to Sarah Jessica Parker.
Yeah,
she gets shat on, and understandably, I am.
She was delightful.
I am team Samantha. I do respect him, all the Sex and the City stuff, whatever.
This isn't bad, though.
I think that Sarah Jessica Parker, we forget how talented
she's
and
great.
Funny. She was always a great stage performer, comedic actress.
No, she's funny.
I don't love Mars Attacks, but she's great in it.
Yeah, she's one of the more recognizable and good things in it.
Yeah.
You know who else is in Mars Attacks? My best supporting player.
Yeah.
Lisa Marie.
There you go.
As Vampira / Malia Nurmi.
Less is more, you guys.
I love it. I just want to read out, though, we mentioned Patricia Arquette, Jeffrey Jones, G.D. Spradlin, Vincent D'Onofrio played Orson Welles.
I love Vincent
However, Maurice LaMarche provided Wells' voice,
which is so weird.
Weird that they would do really that. Did D'Onofrio not have an Orson Welles in him?
I don't know, dude. I was wondering if you had a note about him having strep throat or something.
No, I have no idea. I couldn't find the answer. And
he has the look.
And he has a look. But for anyone who doesn't know, Maurice LaMarche is the voice of the Brain in Pinky and the Brain.
Love that voice. He's done.
That's the guy.
He does.
This is his thing.
That is what
he's done. A lot of voices.
Yeah, that is what Brain is.
Maurice LaMarche does voices on Futurama. Mm-hmm. He does a lot of the alien, Omicron Persei 8 guy, Lure. Yeah. He does Lure among many others. So.
He's one of those big wigs.
He's a big voice actor.
I know you from something. Yeah. I've heard that voice before.
Yes, exactly. I mentioned Lisa Marie, and to be clear, not Lisa Marie Presley. This is Lisa Marie, a different actress. Because I was staring.
It's good to point that out.
I was staring at her face that's not Elvis's daughter. I was just anyway.
No, but it's an unfortunate overlap.
It's not great. Bill Murray as John Bunny Breckenridge. Good. We also had Max Casella and Brent Hinckley as Paul Marco and Conrad Brooks, who are
that post note was really funny too.
Oh yeah,
that's just how they were just peddling for he's the president of his own fan club.
Yeah, perfect. But these these actors it's these household faces, right? These people that like, you know them, you don't know their name, but like, you know, you've seen these guys in a lot of things, and they play the part great. We have George the Animal Steel as Tor Johnson. Best move is when he picks up an entire roast chicken and takes a bite from it. Love that. I want to do that at Musso and Frank.
It's a great feeling.
Juliet Landau is Loretta King. She's Martin Landau's daughter, but I love her in Buffy as Drusilla.
I got it. Someday I'm gonna watch Buffy.
Sorry, for me that was a big deal.
Everybody loved Buffy.
There were many others in this. I brought up Corla Pandit, so again, Martin Landau prepared big time. He watched like 35 Lugosi films, all his interviews. He really worked hard on it. And, you know, Johnny Depp at the time was kind of like in this weird place in his career where he like, I don't know, I guess he trashed a hotel room or something. So he kind of had this like bad boy image. And then, you know, he does this like cross-dressing movie, which, I mean, that's not even what the movie's about, but that's like no reporter at the time could help but mention or bring it up or lead with it. You know, it was like no one, the level of repression was very much revealed, you know, because people like couldn't, it was the only thing they wanted to talk about. But he was kind of soured on acting, I guess, and he was thinking about like just packing it in and working. I don't know if that's true, but he said the opportunity to work with Landau really revived his passion. So
I think that's great.
I don't know, there's something nice there. You know, a lot of people brought their hearts into this, and it shows because it's a fucking beautiful and perfect movie.
You know, once in a while. We strike lightning, y'all.
We get a good one now.
This is a good one.
Yeah.
I would watch it again.
Yeah. Yes, thank you.
I recommend it.
Next question. Yeah. I've already watched it again, but I will watch it again and again. I'm like, oh, is this one I need to buy? I don't know. Because it doesn't show up a lot of places.
I don't see it pop up on streamers.
And that alone is
maybe it was just on something and I missed it. I don't know.
That makes me think it's quality. It's like how you can't get The Sixth Sense anywhere.
Or Pride and Prejudice. They always make a huge deal when Netflix like puts it on briefly.
Yeah. Are you talking about the
2005 one?
Oh, okay.
No, the one that matters.
The one that matters.
Sorry, no, no,
we agree.
No, the sexy one.
Yeah, the good one.
No, the hot one.
The hot one. Yeah.
The one with Tom Wamsgans.
The one with Tom Wamsgans. Oh.
Yeah.
Love it.
Good
Thanks. Thank you so much.
Check us out on social media.
Yeah, that's right. And thanks for listening. Tell a friend, write a review. We love that. It helps. But seriously, thank you for listening. I mean, we say that, but I mean, really, the fact that you don't listen to things generally if you don't want to. So the fact that you like made it and keep making it.
You made a choice. You hit some buttons.
Like, thanks. Damn.
And you kept your ears open.
Thank you. It's really flattering.
I'm delighted.
I'm pleased.
Thank you.
Talk to you next week.
Peace out.